Friday, the final day of the week. These are the voyages of the program Unsportsmanlike Conduct. Its ongoing mission to explore strange new movies, to seek out new bits and new edifications, to boldly go where no radio program has gone before. Elkent's Movie Club. It's Elkent's Movie Club. Elkent's Movie Club. It's Elkent's Movie Club.
Live on Stibbs TV with our good friend Kent Wolgamott of the Lincoln Journal-Star. How you doing, Kent?
Oh, I'm doing well, I guess, enjoying the balmy weather.
Oh boy. Well, hey, the good news is you can stay inside. It gives you all the excuse in the world to stay inside and watch basketball.
Yes, unfortunately, I might have to watch Nebraska basketball tomorrow.
Though, you know what? Your advice last week is really good. Record the game, watch it in 45 minutes, and skip through, all the unnecessary stuff. And when it looks like it's going to get really bad, you can just hit stop and just stop watching.
Exactly.
For some reason, I didn't do that. I don't know why. This week, I've watched all of their games live. It has been a terrible decision on my part.
Just watch the part where they make baskets, and it'll only be like 15 minutes.
Right. It'd be 15 seconds, Tips.
And how many games are they playing in the next week? Like
it's
4?
8. It's 8 in the last 15 days when you go back to last Saturday. By the time they get through next Saturday, it'll be 8 games in 15 days.
That's more than the NBA plays.
Exactly. And we still can't
work the schedule so they wouldn't have to play that many games.
And we can't figure out why the Big Ten is so bent on doing this. I mean, why is it so important that everyone gets to 20 conference games?
You got me. It's the Big Ten. Yeah. Why? Explain 90% of what they've done in the last 6 months.
Yeah, I guess if anything, Ken, at least we learned that like everything they said in August about player safety, they really don't care about.
As I say, explain what they've done for the last 6 months.
Yeah. Well, this week in the movie club, we're going back to 2001 and Training Day, starring Denzel Washington and Ethan Hawke. Josh, this was your selection. And might I say it was a fine selection. I said at the beginning of the program as we were teasing the show today, I actually enjoyed this watch more than I enjoyed my first watch. And I don't remember the exact year, but it was when it came out on cable, and that was the first time I saw it. But I actually enjoyed it the second time through better than I did the first.
Yeah, I was the same way with you, John. I had seen it one time. I think I was in high school, so it would have been sometime 2007 or earlier, and I liked it. But I didn't really remember a whole lot. We're going to do spoilers here. So I really only remember the ending with Denzel Washington's character, and I knew that he was a dirty cop. And so, that's the general story for those of you who haven't seen is Ethan Hawke's character. It's day one of him working with the narcotics department of the police department. Denzel Washington is the trainer for him, thus the name Training Day. The entire movie takes place over one day, and very early on, Denzel's character, I don't even know if he's like dipping his toes into the water of maybe doing some illegal things, or if he's just jumping in with both feet, but you kind of figure out early, okay, something's not right with this character. And so I guess the jumping off point that I wanted to start with, Kent, that I really liked about this movie is that Denzel's character, you ask yourself early on, is he someone that is mostly doing good with an approach that can be rough around the edges, or is he using his badge to do bad things and to take advantage of the job in which he has? Because while that question is answered later in the movie, I think the first hour, is as the first time watcher, you can kind of debate, okay, what's actually going to happen with this character and with, I guess, these characters in general.
I think that's fair enough. Although when he and this happens really early when he makes Ethan Hawke smoke the pot that has the PCP in it.
Yeah.
I think maybe he's not all that good a guy.
Yeah, for sure.
But I think that's true. And I think it's also an acknowledgement. In a way, you're acknowledging how good Denzel's performance was. To be able to convey that sort of, is he good, is he not kind of element for a guy who is not a good guy. If you just put on, if you put, here are the facts that what this guy does, you're going to go, he is evil, right?
Yeah.
But you don't get that sense. This was Denzel at his peak, right? In 2001 to 2005, probably, I would say he was the best actor on the planet, movie actor, period. It's like the comparison of somebody like, LeBron or Jordan or whoever is the best at that moment. Denzel was the best at that moment, and he goes against type in this performance. Because Denzel, remember I think the movie right before this, he was the football coach in Remember the Titans, right? You don't get much more opposite, right?
Yeah.
And yet he convinces you, gives you that character in that the way you were talking. Very interesting. And that some of that goes to the writing, but it also, I think, goes more to the performance.
You mentioned, the for one of the early scenes where he gets Ethan Hawke's character to smoke the marijuana. Now, obviously, on this second viewing, I knew exactly, where this was going. I knew, what Denzel's character ultimately became. But even watching it this second time and knowing those things, when he would explain why you do this or why you do that, it still came across as very believable in that, hey, you're on the streets, you're in narcotics. This is a crazy bad underworld. And you have to be able to get down in the dirt with the criminals if you're going to actually, try to get them on, in a place where they're going to either inform on other people or you can do your job. So he still made it very believable that everything that he was doing that on the surface seemed like this is not procedure, this is not the right thing to do. Because you're working in a whole new world, you have to do these things in order to survive this jungle.
And the flip of that is that we're really looking at that through Ethan Hawke's eyes, right? Because he's like, should I do this? Should I not do this?
Yeah.
He gets forced into doing stuff that he may not want to do. And that puts a different kind of tension in the movie beyond the tension that's in the plot. We're trying not to give everything away. So beyond the tension that's in the plot, there's that interpersonal tension between the two of them, which tells you what a good job Ethan Hawke did as well.
Yeah, and along those lines, Kent, I imagine all of us have been in situations, and it doesn't even have to be at a job, but in life where you're dealing with somebody that is above you. Maybe it's literally just age; they're a few years older than you, or you respect them a certain way, and they've perhaps push the boundaries just a little bit, like Denzel. Now, Denzel's character pushed the boundaries a lot, but they push the boundaries, and you almost have to ask yourself, okay, is there like a peer pressure moment where I need to follow along just to follow along? Am I making the right decision? Like, I think, as John just said, his explanation for, hey, you have to understand the drugs if you are going to work this job, because you have to understand the people that use them. Like, that does make sense. And so I agree with you. I thought, Denzel gets all the love and the praise, rightfully so. I thought Ethan Hawke, though, he played that role really, really well. You could just tell he was smart. He knew what he was doing, but he also didn't know this exact job, if that makes sense.
Exactly. The other thing that, while we're talking about performances, what's his name? Scott Glenn? Is that?
Yeah, Scott Glenn.
Very, very good, I thought, as the retired cop. And you know who was surprisingly good in his 7 minutes on screen? The Snoop Dogg.
That's
So
right.
was Dr. Dre. Dr. Dre was pretty good.
Dre was good. Dre is a cop. That was
Yeah, right.
in 2001. I remember sitting in the screening of that, and when Dre comes on dressed as a cop, I started laughing. Right? And
Yeah, they
other
must have
people
paid
in
him a
the
lot.
screening are looking at me like, "What are you laughing about?" Well, imagine Dr. Dre as a cop. Okay.
Was
Speaking
that
of
was that
interesting
Snoop?
cameo, go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry, Stibbs. Go ahead. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, speaking of interesting cameos, I mentioned to you guys earlier in our DM thread about something interesting I noticed in this movie. Towards the very beginning, when they stop the Volkswagen with the stoners in it, the stoner driving the car is the stoner from Cabin in the Woods.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I
Did
looked
you
at
look
him.
it up to confirm?
I looked it up because I looked at him and I was like, he looks like him, but holy cow, these movies are 10 years apart. Well, actually, as Kent said, they were only like 7 or 8 years apart because it was made in 2008 or 9.
Right.
And I'm like, and then they showed him again. I'm like, ooh, I don't know. Like the different angles made me wonder. And then I went and looked it up, and sure enough, that was him. I've never seen that guy in anything else, and we saw him in 2 weeks in a row.
That's crazy.
And I actually ended up inadvertently watching this twice. I watched it online, and then it came on a regular channel, the edited version on a movie channel.
TNT.
And I thought, I can't resist seeing how bad this thing is when it gets cut apart for regular TV. Think all the stuff that you have to edit out, right?
Oh my gosh, yeah.
It makes zero sense in that.
I was going to say, can they even show him smoking a joint that is laced with PCP? Like, are they even allowed to include that? My goodness, yeah. So he suddenly is just tripping, and you're like, what's going on here?
Exactly. It was like, this is just, I mean, if you watched it the first time on that, you go, this movie's incoherent. You know?
And how about real quick, one more character that I noticed too later in the movie was the guy who played Tuco in Breaking Bad. He was one of the guys in the house at the
super psycho one. Yeah.
Yes, and he was playing Tuco.
Really
I had
was.
Vince Gilligan probably watched that. And he's like, okay, that's the crazy person that we need to snort meth early on in Breaking Bad.
Was that Snoop's first role in a movie?
I believe it was.
Because I still think what he did in Starsky and Hutch was hilarious. I loved
oh my
that
gosh, yes.
when they did the Starsky and Hutch movie. I love that character.
The Snoopster. He's actually a pretty I've talked to him a couple times. He's got more going on than he appears to have sometimes.
Oh yes, he's a great businessman. In fact, just this week, the LA host committee for next year's Super Bowl put out their promotional video, and Snoop was the narrator. They used him as the voiceover guy, and he would show up, kind of promoting, hey, this is LA, this is our time, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, this is crazy, but he's become, he's become the embodiment of Los Angeles.
And who would have thought that in 1988 or whenever the Gin and Juice and all that came out?
His backstory is amazing. He did an interview with Howard Stern that probably went 90 minutes, and his background and his story is really fascinating. His pre-fame days. It was a really good interview.
Yeah, not to go way down a Snoop rabbit hole, but a former Journal Star reporter named Rod Caton went to high school with Snoop.
Really?
In Long Beach, and he has some amazing stories about Calvin. Calvin Broadus is.
Oh, that's awesome.
Well, Ken, I wanted to ask you because I saw, in some of the criticism of the movie, the plot holes, particularly how it ended. And we'll try not to spoil for anyone who hasn't seen it. I know it's a 20-year-old movie, but what did you think about, just how everything could something like this actually be plausible? Yes, there are crooked cops, but to go to the lengths that they did What did you think of that, especially when you reviewed it the first time and then watching it again 20 years later?
And when I reviewed it the first time, that was my main criticism, is not so much that there were giant holes in the plot, but the more the movie went on, the more implausible it became until you got to that ending, which you go, that's never going to happen in real life, right?
Yeah.
I thought the first, I don't know, like hour and 15 minutes or so is pretty tightly plotted. And then it just starts, and I think they're trying to resolve everything. How do I want to put this? The screenwriter does a really good job of putting these clues in all the way through the movie that sort of come together at the very end, right? You know why this happens because you saw that 20 minutes before, that kind of thing. And I think he tried way too hard at that, and it kind of took it over the top. And I think also Denzel's performance kind of went over the top at the end, which I'm not criticizing it, but I'm saying I think that added to that feeling that, well, this wouldn't ever, it's implausible. That really wouldn't ever happen. But that didn't hurt the movie for me. You know what I'm saying? I don't care. If movies are supposed to make perfect sense, we better quit watching all of them.
I try to, and I know my dad's listening right now. I always get mad at my dad because he won't watch anything that's like cannot be plausible in real life in any way. Like any sort of science fiction, or like he's way anti Star Wars and Star Trek and any of that crap, because he just can't let his mind get there. And I try to tell him the same thing, Kent. Like, that's the point of movies. If you just wanted to see things that could happen in everyday life, you could just go outside. Like, the point of seeing a movie is to see cool things that you can't see normally. I don't care if it's ridiculously unrealistic. That's the point of the movie. I want to enjoy it. If it's entertaining, so be it.
And here's my counter argument to those kind of people is, okay, you're watching a cop movie like this one, and you see like 5 people get shot, and then the cop just goes right on about his business. Right? Where does that happen in real life?
Yeah.
The cop pulls a gun and they're on administrative suspension that next minute.
Yes.
Yeah. How about early, like Ethan gets out of the car to go to the alley and he's just running around with a gun, or like
exactly.
Denzel wants him to smoke the weed, and he's like, they're sitting there. First of all, they're parked in the middle of the street, which is hilarious, and he's pointing the gun right at his head. Yeah. And meanwhile, you got all these people, they're seeing it, they're like watching all this unfold.
So even that is not, quote, realistic. And even documentary films, you guys know this, they take the parts and put them together to make their story. You want to watch something boring, sit and watch real life on film.
My dad feels so attacked right now because I think by far and away his favorite genre is cop movies. It's not even close.
But that is so true.
It's true.
You can't pull your weapon without making a report, and you certainly can't discharge it without immediately being taken off the streets. They're investigating everything, and yet we see it all the time in cop films, Lethal Weapon, any of them, where it's just like,
if you kill somebody, you're done for months.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, even along those lines, I was thinking about it, with the Snoop Dogg scene where he's like, there's another 10 years, there's another 10 years. And I remember finding myself thinking as I'm watching it last night, like, okay, but how would you explain this? Because it's not like it's just the casing. It's the whole bullet that's sitting on the floor right now.
Yeah.
It was a really good movie.
Yeah. Those don't bother me. I mean, they don't in almost any movie.
Yeah, same.
And you watch, Westerns were always the classics, right? You had these people jumping off of a moving horse. Try that once.
It's hard to get on the stupid things when they're standing still.
Exactly.
You mentioned that Denzel towards the end it kind of got a little over the top. Whatever it was, at least it gave us. It's still my favorite line from the film when. And this won't spoil too much, but when Ethan Hawke shoots him the first time, and he just goes, "Oh, you shot me in the ass!" Yeah. I love that line and the way he delivers it. That alone got him the Academy Award, as far as I was concerned. I just love that line and the way he delivers it.
Yep, and imagine how hard it was on the set to not bust out laughing.
Yes.
When he said it, right? You got all these people standing around doing their thing, and I'm sure Ethan Hawke was standing right there. And he says that. How do you not laugh?
Yeah. I would love to see the outtakes and how many takes they did that in, just to see what the reaction was and how he may have changed his tone and his delivery. I would love to know, or if it was a one-take deal where he just hit it and it was like, well, maybe that's the one.
No, I guarantee you it was a multiple-take deal, and the reason you can tell that is look at all the cuts around it.
And the different camera angles, because they have to do the entire scene for each.
Sure, angle. Okay.
Yeah. So you had to cut, that thing had to have been shot. What do you think, Stibbs? 6-7 times?
Yeah, probably.
Because there's got to be, I didn't count the number of shots. But
there's the viewpoint from above. There's the viewpoint from kind of that head, kind of gangbanger guy.
Right.
Behind Ethan Hawke, looking at Ethan Hawke. Yeah, there's a whole bunch of them.
And when you and they cut that together so quickly, you don't think about that. This movie was really well edited, by the way, I think. But anyway,
I thought so too.
Give Anton Fuqua, who's the director, some credit for this as well, I think.
Good movie.
Yes, it was. And, Denzel won the Academy Award for it. Ethan Hawke was nominated for a supporting actor in that. And
very easily could have won, but I suspect that there was some, this movie's getting one. Right?
Yeah.
It wasn't like this is some art film that's going to get
all
3
the
or 4 acting awards,
Yeah, honestly, the fact that Denzel won it is pretty amazing, given that it's a cops and robbers movie, or I guess cops and cops movie, if you will. Kind of grimy movie that even he was able to win one. I mean, it just shows how great his performance was.
All right,
everything he did was good. Go back and watch that stretch of movies. Every one of them, he's good.
Yeah.
It's funny, Kent, real fast jump before you give your movie. Travis said on Twitter, he says, I remember hating this movie because I didn't like Denzel as a bad guy. Forgot about that. He was talking about when you brought up, Kent, the other movies of that day, including Remember the Titans. He says, forgot about that until Kent explained the context of the movie. Yeah, and I thought about that too, of just how jarring did this have to be in the moment, given all of the other baggage, if you will, that we had with Denzel, from before it.
All right, Kent, let's test your memory. Ethan Hawke didn't win the best supporting actor. Who did that year? Do you remember? 2001?
No idea. No.
Does the name
years ago, dude?
Does the name Jim Broadbent ring any bells?
Oh, sure. Very good English actor, certainly.
From Iris. He was in Iris.
Iris, a small English movie. Very, very good actor.
By the way, the others nominated that year were Ben Kingsley for Sexy Beast, John Voight for his portrayal of Howard Cosell in Ali, and Ian McKellen in some nerd movie.
What, John? What won the Academy Award that year? What won the ultimate Oscar? Do you have that? Is that on the same page you're on?
For the best film, you mean?
Yeah, Best Picture.
Beautiful Mind.
Yes.
Ooh,
no.
Yeah, you're right. Was that the next?
Was it? Yes, A Beautiful Mind. Yeah, there it is. I'm sorry, I was trying to click over.
The stretch where Russell Crowe was in, I think, back-to-back
Gladiator.
Wins. He was in Gladiator the year before.
If you want to watch a good movie on that list, Sexy Beast is a really, really good gangster movie. Really good.
Yeah.
I'm gonna look it up.
Sexy
I,
Beast.
I've diverted us down another rabbit hole here.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm looking it up.
Yeah. I don't know if it's available on streaming at the moment.
I'm guessing it's not. But
I'm not gonna Google "sexy beast" on the work computer. I'll check it out when I get home.
Probably a good idea. Well, all right. So, are we in the mood to double dip on Denzel? Because I think the reason why we picked Denzel last week was because he's out in a new movie on HBO Max called The Little Things.
I have
sure.
not seen it yet. Yeah,
Are we good with that?
I'm down.
Sure. Yeah.
All right, let's do that because it's the latest movie. It's one of the new releases that is part of the Warner Brothers HBO Max agreement, where you get first run movies for the first month on HBO Max. It's The Little Things with Denzel Washington. Help me with the young man who played Freddie Mercury, Remy Malek.
Uh-huh.
And so it's also a cop detective slight thriller. Yeah. So maybe we can nitpick that in terms of administrative leave and all the other stuff. The Little Things.
Yes,
cool.
And next week maybe take about 30 seconds and talk about Nomadland, which is, I would say, the odds-on Best Picture favorite at the moment, which opens next Friday.
We'll do that.
I've watched the trailer for this. I'm excited about it.
They're allegedly sending me a link. We tried to get a screening set up, right? Like almost every week I go to screenings now. And it's Searchlight. Used to be Fox Searchlight, but Disney owns it now. So it's just Searchlight. And they will not do press screenings during the pandemic. So they're sending me a link, allegedly, Sunday night, and I have until 6 p.m. on Monday to watch it. That's how tight they clamp down on those links.
Yeah. Oh, so the link will expire on you.
Yeah.
So you can't send it off to people. Yeah, okay.
Exactly.
Well, then we'll look forward.
Quick, Steve points out that Sexy Beast is available on HBO and on HBO Max. So there you go.
Cool. I'm telling you, I really like. Okay, that's a 20-year-old movie, and as soon as the name went up, it's like, that's really good.
Yeah.
Well, we'll look forward to our conversation next week, Kent. We appreciate it. Thanks, and we'll discuss The Little Things and more on our movie club next week.
Sounds great.
All right, there he is. Kent Wolgamott of the Lincoln Journal-Star, and we will continue with more of Unsportsmanlike Conduct next on 1620 The Zone.